And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another special episode of Drive for Life. I'm your host, Brian Martindale, and again, we have a double episode this week. This episode, we're going to introduce you to Andrea Weisman. Andrea is a beauty queen, living kidney donor, and author. I'll give you just a short introduction. Andrea is a dedicated wife, mom, pageant queen, and became an altruistic kidney donor in 2024. She currently resides in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, along with her husband, Andy, their son, Tanner. And in her professional life, she's a top producing team in real estate, if I remember right, the queen bee of Badger Real Estate team. And we'll let her get into more of her personal life. So I just want to give you a proper introduction, Andrea. It's great to have you here with us this morning. And so tell us, first of all, about Andrea Weisman and everything to today.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me here. As you probably see, I have animals running around behind me right now.
Right.
So don't be surprised if one of them wants to say hi.
Okay.
Yeah, like you said, I'm Andrea. I currently live in Pewaukee right now. I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee, middle child. I'm my dad's oldest daughter, so I kind of am the what do I want to say? I'm the mom of all the kids.
Okay.
I grew up in a pretty typical household. Parents got divorced when I was in my teens, which kind of a little bit changed a lot of my life. Took me to
Sure.
Oak Creek, graduated from Oak Creek High School. And then life kind of got me a little. The working world got me. I kind of did the typical, 20-something-year-old things that people did. I actually settled down pretty early in life. I met my previous husband when I was only 21 years old. And that kind of set the tone for my life for quite some time. Um, I became a licensed manicurist at a very elite salon and spa. I did that for 14 years. I married that guy that I settled down with. And when I was, 21, I married him at 30. We had our first child and my first and only. I have a son, Tanner. He will now be turning 13. The love of my absolute life. He is my world. Um, and Unfortunately, in 2015, I got divorced. And that really, really, really set my whole life trajectory. Little did I know that like he was gonna literally hit me with something, and tell me to take a step back at life. And it has literally shaped who I am today.
Okay.
December 9th, 2015 shaped my entire life from now on.
Okay. And now you've gone forward professionally. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, being in the salon and spa industry, it's a lot. It's not just beauty. There's a lot more
Right.
that actually went into it. I was somebody's therapist for a long, 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 long time. And to be honest, nobody had ever challenged me and asked me what I would want to do other than the
What you
beauty
were doing.
industry. Yeah, and I kind of pigeonholed myself into like, okay, I'm a manicurist. I'm going to stay there. One day, maybe I might own my salon, some things like that. And then I started thinking like, this isn't fun anymore. What do I love to do?
Right.
And my now husband, my current husband said, what else do you love, Andrea? And I said, you know what? I really, really, really loved when I had to sell my home. And I would love to do that for somebody else.
Okay.
And he was so supportive in it. I have been now in the real estate space for almost 9 years.
Okay.
One of the top producers here in the area with my business partner, Robin. And it has been one of the best things to ever happen to me.
Very good. And so professionally, that made the change there. And then you had a huge change in your life when you became a living kidney donor. What all
Yeah.
led up to that? Because that is a huge decision, as I know, being a fellow living kidney donor. What led you to your path? I'm always curious about
Like I said, December 9th, 2015 changed the entire trajectory of my life. I was going through a divorce. I sold my home. I had a 3-year-old son. I had just moved in with my parents, and I was in a near fatal car accident.
Oh,
I was hit head on by a young driver, and I really should not be here today. But I know that I was spared because I was here to do God's work, and that one day I was going to be given that light of what I was supposed to be doing. And so that day really, really changed my life. Had I needed anyone to be a donor for me on that particular day, I
right.
would have had to rely on a stranger having that box checked on their license. And let me tell you,
Absolutely.
that was the hugest wake up call because I myself did not have that box checked on my license.
Okay. So, and that just changed everything for you. You were spared. You're obviously with us
It
today,
really did.
healthy and happy. And then let's go fast forward. What was it? A certain person? Was it just seeing somebody who needed a kidney? What was the actual, motivation there? You lived through
Sure.
this
Yeah,
crazy car accident and then gone on and okay.
I mean, I easily could have had that happen, right? And been, done with it and whatever.
Yep,
But I believe that people are put into our lives for a reason. Through these
absolutely.
past years, I have crossed paths with people who have needed me to tell their story.
Hmm.
And it really came full circle to me a little less than 3 years ago. A business partner of mine, he told me that he was in need of his second kidney. And I had known that as a teenager, he had received his first one. And now
Okay.
being in his 30s, his
Hmm.
body said, hey, it's time for a new one.
I knew it. Yep.
And he said to me, like, I don't know what to do. And I said, you know what? How can I help you? Because to me, I was like, yes, like if I can be your donor, let me do it. Like, and if I can't, like, what can I do to help you out? So,
Right.
unfortunately, I went through that initial process, and I wasn't a match for him. And I
Right.
have to tell you, that weighed so heavy on my heart, so
Yep.
heavy. So, the wonderful world of social media and being out there and putting a face on things really kind of came into play. I started championing a campaign for him, had t-shirts made. We went out into the public, we went on social media. I said, my friend needs your kidney and somebody needs to help. So it was a long process for him, but I knew that if I couldn't be his match, that I was going to help find someone for him. And to be honest, he's still going through that process. There have been plenty of people who have lined up to be a match for him or to get at least get tested. And hopefully one day we're closer to being able to do that for him. So that was just kind of my beginning of getting involved in kidney donation and organ donation in general. And then this past year, social media is the most wonderful thing, I think, if it's used correctly.
Right.
I had a wonderful family reach out to me, and this young mom said to me, my son is in desperate need of a kidney, and his only chance at life is to get this kidney. He unfortunately was born with a very rare genetic disease that
Mhm.
actually had him have his kidneys removed at only 7 months old. So this kid has been going through life 100% on dialysis
Yeah.
every single day. And at
Right.
that time when I met her, he was 4. And I just knew I had to help. And I said, what can I do? How can I advocate for you? And she said, I'm okay with you telling my story. Tell my story. And I said, okay, I'm going to tell your story. And
Okay.
people lined up in droves to match for this child.
Okay.
It was
And
so heartwarming.
okay, we're going to just take a quick break and go to commercial, and then we're going to talk completely about how the story unfolds. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more of this episode of Drive for Life. Okay.
Hi, we're the Sobrowski family.
Yeah, Sobrowski family.
And what's your name?
Thea.
I'm Keith. And I'm Mallory.
My dad name Keith and dad Mallory.
In December of 2023, Bear had a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole process, Kidneys for Kids was right there alongside us. They helped us make the important connections with the media to get their story out there and ultimately help us find his donor. And at multiple times, they have helped us with financial assistance during a very difficult time where we were living between multiple cities and racing to go to different doctor's appointments to make sure that he could get his kidney and everything went off without a hitch. Thank you, Kidneys for Kids. We don't know where we'd be without you. We love you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another special episode of Drive for Life. Again, I'm your host, Brian Martindale, and I'm here with Andrea from Milwaukee, Wisconsin again. And Andrea's been talking to us about her life, her career, and now we're talking about her episode as becoming a living kidney donor. So let's continue again where we left off, Andrea, just before the commercial break. You were just starting to tell us about your donation experience.
Yes, absolutely. Like I was saying before, I had this mother reach out to me, and her son was in desperate need of a kidney. And when I took to social media and we went out there and campaigned for him, the amount of people that lined up was insane, insane. And fortunately, he was fortunate enough to get his gift of life April 16th last year. And it was the most amazing day of a lot of people's lives. And mind you, I had never had a connection to this family except for meeting them on social media. And to be a part of that now, and have been part of that process, I mean, this little kid he's like my little guy too. Our families are families now. And 2 days later, April 18th, I went in for my first actual real evaluation to become a living kidney donor.
Okay.
At the same hospital with the
Yeah.
same nephrology team. And it was one of those things that I knew had weighed so heavy on my heart for such a long time that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try. I'm just going to try. And if God tells me no, then no. But until somebody says no, I'm not giving up.
Cool.
And to be honest, like when I put my mind to something, like I don't give up. I told my husband, my poor husband, I said, you know what, honey, I just might be a kidney donor. And he was like, okay, all right, go ahead. And for me, I wanted to be able to talk about the process.
Right.
I'm lucky enough to sit on the board of the National Kidney Foundation here in Wisconsin.
Yes.
And for me, being on that board and going through this, even if I didn't make it to that finish line, I wanted to be able to talk about the process and tell people what it was like and what to expect and experience, right? And as you know, not everyone's experience is the same.
Absolutely.
So, I wanted to know what it was like, and to have undergone that very intensive all day evaluation, physical, mental, everything was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. And to be honest, I was not worried about them telling me no, that I couldn't be a kidney donor. I was actually worried they were going to find something else wrong with me. And
Same here.
I couldn't get that out of my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, what if something else is actually wrong with me? And so that was scary for a while because I didn't get results for a really long time. I didn't find out until August that I actually was eligible. I had to go back several times and retest and do things. And, I could have given up, but I wasn't going to.
Absolutely. Many people do.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and truth be told, right? A lot of people don't make it to the end. And it took a lot to just dig deep and just be like, trust the process, Andrea, trust the process, because it's either going to be a yes or a no, and then you'll know. So, August 2nd, on a car ride home with my son, we were having a mommy and Tanner day. I got the call to say, hey, guess what, Andrea? You are eligible to be a living kidney donor. And I was like, okay, now I got to go home and tell my husband.
Yeah,
Like it was real. It was real. And I was like, wow, okay, all right. Um, and so, I went home and I told him, and, how do you feel about this? And he said, well, we're going to navigate this together. If this is something that you want to do, we'll figure it out. And as you know, they tell you you can back out at any time. I mean, they could have told me that I could be a kidney donor and I could say, you know what, I changed my mind. But for me, I was like, I'm in it to win it. Let's just do this. Um, because I could. And I knew that somebody else was depending on me to live. And,
absolutely.
I had been so blessed to be given that second chance at life that I just knew that I needed to give somebody their second chance.
Yeah, and I really get
And
the connection now knowing about your accident first and leading this. That's just amazing.
yeah, and
Look,
I had a really, really hard time actually talking about my accident because I never really wanted anyone to be like, wow, like she's playing victim. So I
right.
didn't talk about it for a very, very long time. It took a good at least 4 years for me to even tell anyone that I was in an accident. People that had never met me before had no idea.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because I just didn't have a victim mentality. I was like, this happened. Let's move on. Let's figure it out. God put you here for a reason. Go do it. And I've, found out that this was my calling. Um, and so, December 4th, I was able to be somebody's, beacon of hope. Um, and it happened quickly too with that, knowing, August 4th, get the call. My profile went live on Halloween. By the next day, they said, guess what, Andrea, you're having surgery on December 4th. And I said, okay, all right,
Yep,
buckle up, family, we're doing this.
yep, you just do it. You just follow along with what they say.
Yeah. And I donated to a complete stranger.
Right.
And for me, it was really because I could. It was because I could. And, getting the call of saying you're having surgery, I was in it, no backing out. You still get that option. I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
And, it's been amazing. It just to know that I was part of somebody's bigger story,
Yeah.
um, has
Part
been
of their
super,
life forever.
super cool. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I got to meet my donor. I mean, my recipient got to meet her.
Okay.
And she has now become one of my friends. I got to meet her family. They're now our family. And it's just so nice to like see her thrive. And that's all I cared about. That was really all I cared about. I wanted to give her that second chance that she had been waiting for.
Yeah, you telling your story. There's so many connections. When I donated, I was just dating my now wife, and to tell her after 6 weeks of dating, I'm going to become a kidney donor to a stranger. How are you going to react? And she's been nothing but supportive. She's the reason for Kidneys for Kids existing, and for Jessica, having my kidney, her being my support system. So I really relate, and I just love doing interviews with people like this because we all have different experiences when we donate,
Yes.
but to hear a similar experience of mine, knowing that you're going to do this once you decided to do this, there was no stopping you. There
Yep.
was no telling, nobody going to tell you no, that and no backing out. And that we have that, unfortunately, as you know, and I know, when we get people that are registered, people automatically think, especially for a child, they see this campaign, well, this child's got a donor because X amount of people have registered. But those
Right.
X amount of people have to go through tests, and then only a very small percentage of those, like you and I, will pass every one of those tests to get to this point of becoming a living donor.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. The thing is that, like you said, I had several people who are like, oh, so and so, he probably got a lot of, he probably got a lot of donors. Like, I don't need to do this. The whole idea of this is that, like, yes, that did happen. Let's keep it going. We just need to be a drop in this ripple effect that we are trying to create, so this story never ends.
and
Just
exactly,
needs to keep going, and we just need to keep paying it forward,
absolutely,
and the big thing is like people say, like, they try to exclude themselves out of things like, oh, this such and such happened to me, I could never be a donor. Well,
yeah,
how do you know?
I know. I covered that, I think, in one of our last interviews. I mean, I get real personal in some of these. When I was younger, I smoked cigarettes.
Mhm.
I'm so glad I stopped. I never drank, somebody that was alcoholic or something. But I drank my fair share in my 20s and 30s, and I got tested at 51. And at 51, I hadn't had all the tests men are supposed to have in their 50s. So I'm
Sure.
wondering, yeah, what if, and then to find out, you're this healthy at 51 after all those things through your life, you've been blessed, you're obviously meant to go ahead with this. So we're going to
Yeah.
excuse ourselves for one more commercial break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with the last episode, part of this episode of Drive Through.
Hi, my name is Casey Paff. I am the Vice President of Kidneys for Kids. Thank you so much for your consideration in supporting and donating to our nonprofit. Your support means everything. It helps us achieve our mission here. We are a nonprofit that specializes in being able to find donor matches across the nation for children in need. We have already had so much success, and we are looking forward to this next year. I was one of the first interviews with Brian Martindale, and my own son has had a kidney transplant. My husband was his donor, and it was such a beautiful process to see both sides. He is since then thriving, and we are having that at the forefront, and the goal is to help other children get back to that thriving state. Your donation, your support means the world, and we look forward to working with you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the special episode of Drive for Life. I'm your host, Brian Martindale. I'm with Andrea Weisman, living kidney donor, advocate, author, mother, real estate magnate. So we're going to cover everything we haven't talked about in the first two segments. You just finished telling us about your personal kidney donation story. Now, I know you use a platform to promote living kidney donation. Tell us a little bit about your platform.
I do. I'm a pageant queen.
Okay.
And to be like completely transparent, um, pageantry was not on my radar. I'm 43 years old. I didn't enter my first pageant until I was 41.
Okay.
And it really came along because I was losing myself. I was a mom, a wife, a best friend, a real estate agent, doing all these things, volunteering, all this stuff. And I one day I was like, what am I doing for myself? And someone had approached me and said, you know what, you should do a pageant. I'm like, no. Like I don't know anything about pageantry. I didn't grow up in that
Sure.
environment. And she said, well, neither did I. But like I have this, thing that I'm very passionate about, and I know that you are too about certain things. Like come on in, like see what it's about and have this group of people support you. And I was like, okay, cool.
Okay.
And it has been one of the best things that's ever happened to my personal life. It has allowed me to be in front of an audience and of people that I never ever thought I was going to be able to reach.
Right.
And to be on a stage, yes, it's beautiful. There is the glitz and the glam, but really, being the United States of America, Mrs. Waukesha County, it's really about community service. It's about a sisterhood. It's about how we can support each other and how we can get our voices out there beyond Wisconsin. And that is my big thing. So I use my pageant platform to really talk about organ donation. And now having this personal experience that I went through, it really kind of just emphasizes, my story and how I
Yeah.
just want to have conversation. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm not trying to, bully anyone into doing anything, but I want them to listen. Because at
Right.
the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know. And I want conversation. Because,
Absolutely.
chances are we all, oh, sorry. Chances are we all have somebody in our life that like either, have kidney disease and don't know. They have high blood pressure. They have diabetes.
Right.
Even if it's not directly us, we know someone that is
Right.
being affected by kidney
One out of
disease.
seven people. We know that. We have
It's,
kidney donors. Yes.
and like people are living right now. who don't know they even have it, don't know that they have, the first stages of
Yeah,
it. And as we know, kidney disease can't be reversed. We can only slow it down.
right.
And ultimately, we don't want people to have to get to dialysis and organ donation. But when they do get there, we want to make sure that they have what they need and that things are available to them.
Absolutely.
And so that's how I use my pageant platform, is to really just educate people and, get more people thinking about, like, maybe I do want to be an organ donor, or having the conversations with, their family, saying, I am a registered donor. When I pass on, please make sure that my wishes are taken care of.
And you're saving lives that you'll never know, obviously, after you pass, but you're giving a second chance to so many others with the different parts of your body that you can donate at that.
Absolutely.
But getting
Absolutely.
people to donate in life is what we're asking for. You and I, you use that platform for it. I use Kidneys for Kids for it. We use this television network to do that. So, I mean, just meet another person like you. That's so inspiring. God bless you for everything you're doing. I want to talk a little bit about, now you became an author, and you're in a series of books by Brenda Cortez. Now, I don't have the newest one that just came out yesterday. This one is Organ Donation Pediatric Stories. But tell us about the new book that you are a co-author of.
Yeah, let me just tell you, never in a million years did I think I would be an author. I've been told millions of times that, like, my life is a book and I should write a book, but it would just never really crossed my radar.
Okay.
And I had actually been like a fan of Brenda's because I had read her two prior books. They were books that I just used for me to educate others, but also just to it really helped me in my journey of just
Right.
seeing what people went through and how they dealt with things. And being so passionate about the organ donation community, it was just somebody that, like, I was like, this woman has, she's telling other people's stories. And then for her to go into, she has that children's series, Howl the Owl, which
Yes, we just covered
is a
that
whole nother thing
our
for
interview
me.
before you. Yes.
Absolutely. Like that, those stories, I mean, I try to share those with everyone. So, when she approached me and said, Andrea, I'm writing my third series. I would really like to feature you. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm just me. I'm just me. And I could tell my story all day. And she said, let's put it in print. And I'm like,
Same here. Yeah.
okay. Okay, let's do this. So, it was a bit surreal writing my story because now, being an advocate and um being a public speaker, I tell my story all the time and it flows like water, right? But then
Yeah.
to put it down pen to paper and then see it come to life and then read it,
Very different.
it's just been so magical.
Yeah.
And I cannot thank her enough for just telling a little glimpse of my story. Because, it's just a little bit. And to be like, I mean, to be in this book with some of these authors and just knowing what their lives have been like and the journeys that they have been on,
Yes.
it's just, it's so heartwarming. And I mean, I have to tell you, I have yet to get my hands like on my physical copy, but let me
Yeah.
tell you, when I do, it's going to be a
Yeah.
big thing.
But your release yesterday was a national release, and I know it's already a hit in that category. So
Yes.
congratulations for just being a
Yeah.
part.
We're on Amazon, we're on Barnes and Noble, where our books are sold. They picked us up and we are ready to go.
Yep. And at the end of this interview, just so you know, we'll have the information for people to purchase that book. The interview before this was with Brenda Cortez, and your interviews are playing back to back on Monday night on special episodes of Drive for Life, so we can connect you to. So it made just
That's
the perfect
amazing.
combination. And let's talk about a little about something special you and I are going to do this summer. We're going to be meeting up in Madison and Milwaukee to do some special visits, book presentations, benefit.
Yeah.
So you've already taken over as an ambassador. So from Kidneys for Kids, I want to thank you for coming aboard. Tell us, you already know what we're going to do in Milwaukee. So the plan is we're going to do TV interviews for children in Madison at the hospital in the morning, possibly an interview or possibly a event at lunch, courtesy of Brenda. And then all of us together are going to Milwaukee. And then there's going to be the interview at the hospital there. And then tell us a little bit about the benefit you put together.
Sure. This was a no-brainer for me when you said, we need to have a lunch space or a dinner space, and right away I knew who I could connect with. So we are going to be heading to a restaurant called BJ's. It's a brew house, beautiful restaurant. But the minute I told them what we wanted to do, they were like, just tell us what time you want to be here. And they're going to give us 20% of our proceeds back to you, Kidneys for Kids. And it's going to be an event where it's a time frame of 4 hours. So whether people dine in or, takeout, all of that is going to us. And like that, like I said, they were more than gracious to be like, yes, let's do it. We cannot wait. It's very conveniently located near Children's Hospital, so it'll be easy for anyone who is at the hospital or near there to be able to come and say
Yeah.
hi and grab a bite to eat and know that they're doing something really great for Kidneys for Kids.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows that's watching this, those proceeds that we raise that night, we have a family assistance fund where we give all of those funds collected in the form of grants up to $1,000 per family, and that's for costs not covered by insurance for a child going through treatment or transfer. So we'll be talking about this on television long before it happens and giving publicity to it. But for you and I to go in along with Brenda and actually participate in these interviews on network television, and then we're going to have a cameraman traveling with us that's recording this whole trip and broadcasting live, as well as turning this into a weekly series and documentary. So you're going to be a part of that. So, and right now, your story is being seen in 14 different countries, not just the United States.
Yay!
So you are definitely advocating. Is there anything you'd like to add before we end this interview about your mission, anything at all?
You know, I feel so blessed to be a part of this community, the organ donation community, the kidney community. I mean, never in a million years did I think that this is what I would be doing.
Right.
Um, and this is my life's work. And if I can just touch one person with my story, then my job is done. And, it's being on things like with you and connecting with people with like minds that are really just going to keep this bus moving. And that's
Absolutely.
all that really matters.
Well, we're glad to have you on the bus, on the team. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person in June, and we'll be talking much more in between. So, Andrea Weisman, thank you for joining us on another episode of Drive for Life. Again, I'm your host, Brian Martindale, and tune in again for another episode of Drive for Life.